Hey there, it's Nina with Walla Stamping. Thanks for joining me and I hope you're having a great day. So this is my first project that I'm going to be sharing with you from the Occasions catalog. Earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week, I was making a Christmas project and I had said that I was going to start winding down on my Christmas projects and start introducing you to the product which is in the Occasions catalog as well as some of my Sale-a-bration catalog items. So this is a little gift bag that I'm going to make, and I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit and show you that it's got the Sweet Soiree sweet items in this project. So you see there's the wedding cake and there's a little rosette that I made, and then I have some shred in the top. And Stampin' Up! Actually has some shred which I'm so excited about, and silly me, I forgot to put it in my order. So it's called Ready Shreddy, and there's silver and a couple of other colors that I can't remember, but I'll make sure that I put the names of those colors up here on the screen as I'm talking about it. This is just some that I had laying around the house and it's just white. So I think it works though because the cake is white, but this is a really easy project. You could change it up and make it more suitable for a birthday, but today I've decided to make it more wedding themed. So let's hop on into this project and I'm going to show you how it's made. So here is the little gift bag that I've made, and I wanted to go ahead and share the Sweet Soiree Specialty Designer Series paper. Now as you can see, I've already cut on mine because I've used it in this project. But this sheet of paper, let me go ahead and grab this part of it over here and stick this together. But this is probably, I'm going to say, is going to end up being my favorite piece out of this packet. And as you can see, it's just filled with silver dots. And if you may notice, they get thicker and denser around the edges, and then they kind of fade out as you get to the center of the paper. And then there is this sheet, which is this floral pattern on one side, and then on the back it's just kind of a swirly pattern, which I had said that I felt like this would be great if you were doing some kind of an ocean or a water scene. I think that would be fantastic for that. Then of course we have the wedding cake paper, and it's a whisper white background. It also has the silver foil dots in the background, and then the cakes on the back of this is a old olive and whisper white stripe. Then we have the old olive and silver, and this is a striped pattern, but it's not straight stripes, if that makes sense. And then on the back we have a polka dot pattern. Then this is another floral pattern with Marina Mist in the background. And then on the back, this is another kind of a swirly type of a pattern. Then an additional floral pattern, and then on the back of that is another floral pattern. Those are the pieces to this Sweet Soiree Designer or Specialty Designer Series paper, and I have to tell you, it's a really nice thick designer series paper, and all of these particular sides have a silver foil pattern to them, and then on the back side they're just matte. So let's go ahead and let me start telling you what all I'm going to be using to create this project. So I'm going to be starting out with a piece of the Sweet Soiree Specialty Designer Series paper. This is cut to 8 by 12. Now something that I want you to notice is around the sides and across the top there is the thicker pattern of the dots, and then in the middle and where I've cut it is the lesser pattern. I'm wanting this portion of this paper to be the top of my bag. So when you're cutting your paper, just keep mindful of that. So next we also have a piece that has the blue swirls on the back. This piece is cut to 5 by 2. Then I have some old olive. I have a couple of pieces that I'm going to make the rosette with. Both of these are cut to 11 by 2 inches, and then to cut out the foliage I have a piece that is 2 by 3. Then I've got a couple pieces of Whisper White. I have one that's 3x3, which I'm going to stamp and cut the cake out of. And then I have a piece here that, this is basically a scrap. It's about 1.25 inches wide, but about 4.5 inches long. Doesn't have to be that exact same size, just something big enough to punch out and stamp your leaves. I also have some vellum here, and I've just got these cut into just about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch strips, and I have 3 of them. And each piece I've just cut the length of my piece of vellum, which is about 11 inches, and then I'm going to end up cutting those in half. I also have a piece of silver foil sheet. This is 3x4. Now there is some ribbon that goes with the Sweet Soiree, which I failed to order. I don't know where my brain was the day that I was ordering my items out of this catalog, but there's some things I wanted, and for whatever reason I totally forgot to add them to my list. So I happen to have some Berry Burst ribbon, and I think this may be called the Finely Woven or the Classic Weave ribbon. I'm going to be using the Cake Soiree bundle, and the stamp set consists of 2 packages, and as you can see here, you've got solid images of some of the flowers and the cake, and then you have the open images as well. Then we have a little bit of greenery here and here. We have some pretty sentiments, and then we have this little gift box, which I think is really cute right there. So I've got that, and then it coordinates with the Sweet Cake framelits. And if you purchase both of these items together, which I highly recommend because they are going to give you so many different options and ways to create with these, you actually save 10% on getting them both together. I'm going to be using my Layering Circles Framelits dies to help build my rosette. But if you don't have these and you have a circle punch, then you can use that. If you don't have either, then you can always hand cut out a circle to help build your rosette. The ink colors that I'm going to be using are Powder Pink, Berry Burst, Daffodil Delight, and Wisteria Wonder. The clear blocks that I'm going to be using today is a block D, as well as a block C. The adhesives I'm going to use is some tear and tape, some glue dots. So the first thing we're going to do is our scoring. And I have got the thicker polka dotted pattern across the top of my scoreboard here. And I'm going to start out by scoring at 3 3/4 of an inch. Then again at 5 3/4, then at 9 1/2, and 11 1/2. Then I'm going to turn my paper a 1/4 turn to the right, so this is where the thicker polka dot pattern is, and across what I'm going to call the bottom of my bag, I'm going to score at 2 inches. I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish all of my score lines. Now to do our cutting, I'm just going to cut straight up each of these score lines, and I'm going to stop when I get to that horizontal score line. Cut a wedge out of each of these tabs. We don't need this little piece down here, so I'm going to cut that away at an angle and then cut this away at an angle. This will be the tab that will end up holding our bag together. Now, something that I want to make sure that I mention is that I will have a printable PDF instruction sheet for you. It will have all of the supplies that I've used, as well as all of the measurements you're going to need for all of the products that I'm using. And it's going to have a diagram showing you where to score, where to cut, where to put adhesive, as well as detailed instructions on how to assemble it and put it all together. So I'm going to grab my tear and tape, and I'm going to run one strip right down this tab beside that score line, and then this is going to end up being the front of my bag, and this will be the back. So I'm just going to flip this up and put a couple strips inside this tab right here. And because these tabs are rather large, I think I'll go ahead and flip these up as well and put a couple of strips on what will basically be the back bottom of the box. I'm going to set this to the side, grab my Simply Scored scoring tool again, and I'm going to grab my 2 pieces of old olive that I have cut to 11 inches by 2. And what I'm going to do is score at every ½ inch all the way across. And once you have those all scored, then you're just going to fold each one back and forth accordion style, and you're going to do both pieces this way. Now that you have both of your pieces folded accordion style, one of them you're actually going to flip over. And what I mean is when you start folding them, you're going down and up like that. And when you're done, they're both going to look like this. But you want one of them flipped over so that you can put adhesive right here. And this little piece is folding up, this little piece is folding down. That way they are ready to adhere together, and they're already going into the mountain and valley direction that they should be going in order to put them together. I hope that made sense. So then let's just go ahead and attach both ends together and make a complete circular piece. I do this to you guys all the time, and I have to apologize, but I'm really kind of doing it to myself too. I forgot to tell ya, you need an extra piece of Whisper White, about 3½ by 3½ inches square, and that is so that you can cut out your circle to make your rosette. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my largest plain circle from my Layering Circles framelit dies. But like I was saying, if you don't have these, you can use a punch or you can hand cut it. Now this next part can be just a little bit fiddly, but you'll be able to do this, I feel certain. Now I'm going to use liquid glue. I feel like it's a better bond for this than using some double-sided adhesive. So this is where the fiddly part comes in. You've got to try to push this down in the middle and get it to hold. And then lay, well, it may be easier, honestly, to grab your circle and lay it on top of your rosette, and then just hold that in place with your hand, holding everything together. I would say for about 30 seconds, and give the glue enough time to start getting tacky against that paper, because if you let it go while it's wet, it's just going to spring like a jack-in-the-box, and so just hold it for a minute. Once you feel comfortable that it is going to be held in place, then you can just sit something heavy on that and sit it to the side. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take both of my stamp sets boxes and sit that on there, and I'm just going to move it over here and go ahead and start creating the rest of my rosette while it is finishing up drying. So I have my 2 pieces of Whisper White here. This one I'm going to stamp the cake. This one I'm going to stamp my floral images. So I think I'll go ahead and start out with my cake first, and I'm going to be using the powder pink. And since I need to re-ink this, I'm going to really do my best to get it inked up as well as I can. And that looks just fine. The first image I'm going to stamp is my little flower that looks kind of like a tulip. And I'm stamping that with my Daffodil Delight. Then I'm going to use my Berry Burst and my Wisteria Wonder. and I'm going to stamp my larger rose image here. Get that cleaned off. Then into that ink. There we go. I'm going to take my Wink of Stella and I'm just going to color on top of these because y'all know that I like anything that has glimmer and glitter and shine. Now I will say when you're using your pen, it does have some liquid in there, so it may move around some of your color. Just wipe off the excess before you move on to this yellow one especially. These two I'm not so worried about, but definitely before you go to the yellow, clean that brush off. I have my framelits here. So let me put my cake framelit into place. And my little tulip. And I'll go ahead and get one of these cut out now. And then I'll have to run it through a second time to cut out the second one. While I have the big shot out, I'm going to go ahead and take my old olive and put the foliage die in there and run that through. Last but not least, I want to cut out the cake platter. So that is the platter. Oopsie, I'm throwing framelits around, and this is the base of it. I'm going to begin assembling all of this together, and I'm just going to start by putting some wet glue on the back of the bottom of the stand, and then just lay that down right on top of it. Set that aside for a minute, give it time to dry. Then I'm going to take my Wink of Stella again, and I'm going to put some Wink of Stella on all of these pieces. I'm going to take my vellum pieces, and I'm going to start by just folding each one in half and putting a crease so that I know where to cut. And I'll cut each one of those in half. And I may not use them all. I just kind of eyeball it as I'm going and decide how many of these I actually want to use. Now I'm going to take my bone folder, and I'm going to run that bone folder between my thumb or run that paper rather between my thumb and the bone folder until I get some nice curly curls in there. And I'm going to do each piece this way. So I'm going to just use glue dots for this because I feel like it's a little quicker and easier. And I'm going to, whoopsie, dropped one, put a little glue dot on the underneath. Well, I'm going to put a glue dot on there so that it's curling under from on top of that glue dot. I hope that makes sense. So in other words, it's curling this way, my glue dot is on this side. Then I'm just going to take my cake piece, and I'm going to start attaching those and let them come out from behind the cake. And I don't have any particular pattern or way that I put them on there. Like I was saying, I just eyeball it. So I did end up using all 6 pieces. To attach this to my cake stand, I'm just going to use glue dots to do that as well. You can use your liquid glue if you like, or you could also use some of your tear and tape or even your fast fuse. Then I will start building up all of my other pieces, and pretty much I'm going to be using glue dots for the most part for the remainder of this. So the first piece I'm going to put on is this little piece right here, and it's going to stick out this direction. Then the next piece will be this one. I'm going to put it kind of going in the opposite direction. So I'm going to use my dimensionals, and I'm going to stick one on the back of this larger rose that is stamped with the Wisteria Wonder. Then this one will get placed right here. Then on the back of my little tulip flower, I'm going to cut one of these dimensionals in half. And the reason why is because I want to have it sticking out even a little bit further over the top of this one. So, in order to accomplish that, one side of this flower, which will end up being, let me turn this around the correct way, this side of the flower needs to have 2 dimensionals behind it because it's going to be 2 dimensionals high on this side, and then this side will be overlapping this rose, so it just needs 1. So I'm going to put 1 there, take off that backing, take that other half, put that on top of that first one. Then I'm just going to take, well, actually I do need to cut another one in half, or at least cut a little piece. So I'm just going to cut a piece right off the end there and stick that right here on this side. And if you have the little mini dimensionals, use those. I just brought these over to my work area, so I'm just going to use those instead. Let's see, I think I'm going to put that right there. So this is going to give your cake the feeling that those flowers are stacked out towards you. So then I just have these 2 little pieces left to attach. So I'm going to start out with this smaller one. I'm going to put my glue dot on the front side of this, and then I want to stick this one right in behind that tulip. And let's see, this one right here, need to just decide where I want it to go. I think I will put it behind my Wisteria Wonder Rose. So again, I put my glue dot on the front of it and then just stick that to the back of my Wisteria Wonder. Got my rosette and it is all stuck together, and that glue is now dry. So at this point I'm going to put my ribbon in place, and this is a very glue dot friendly project. You could also use your liquid glue, but I feel like this is a quicker method and it's very secure this way. So when you put your ribbon on here, you want to think of it going back and forth almost in a figure 8 type of a motion, if that makes sense, but you're not really going to make a figure 8. So I'm just going to start out by putting a glue dot right there, and then I'm going to put one right over here. And so this one is basically on the little ridge that I would say would be pointing at 4 o'clock, and this one would be more like 8:30. So I'm going to start by putting the edge of my ribbon. I want it hanging off the edge right there so you can see it. Then I'm going to come over here and stick that down, and then I'm going to put a glue dot right there, kind of close to the center of that hole, and then back over here. So this ribbon I'm going to fold over, come back this way, and leave a little play in it so that it kind of has some rise to it. In other words, you don't want it laying down tight like that. You want it to kind of puff up just a little bit. Then a couple more glue dots. Let's see. I want to see how this is going to go for me. All right, so I'm going to put one right here. And then another one, I think right there will be fine. And you can play around with this when you're putting yours together and change it up however you like. But get those put down. And so this one is a little bit long. I'm just going to trim off what I feel like I don't need. Then I'm going to use my dimensionals and attach my cake to the top of that. And I'm going to use quite a few because I want to make sure that this stays stuck, because you are putting it on top of a surface that is not solid. So you're going to want quite a few pieces of adhesive back there to make sure that this cake does stay stuck in place. So then I'm just going to lay this right on top. Push those down, and I will have to say that I made this rosette larger than this one because I didn't feel like I could see this one well enough from behind the cake and the cake stand. So I made this other one larger. Now we're going to take this piece of our designer series paper, and we're going to cut straight up the center about 3/4 to an inch. Then come over here at this corner and cut into that center point, and then do the same thing over here, and we have a little bannered edge. And I'm just going to use my liquid glue for this. You can also use any other adhesive that you like. Doesn't matter what you use to stick this down with. And this is, oopsie, I dropped it. Let me get that glue wiped up. Then this is going to get attached even with the top and down the center of your bag. And I do have to make a confession here. I did not create this project. This is one that's actually in the catalog, the Occasions catalog. And so now that I've got all my little rosette and everything put together, I'm just going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue. Just use this to attach it to the front of my box. Now, making this rosette larger is going to make it so that you don't see this banner from behind it as well. So if you'd like to, instead of cutting that piece at 5 inches, you could always cut it at 5.5 or 5 3/4. But just keep in mind that your bag is 6 inches from the bottom to the top. So you don't want to go too big. Now here is some of the shred that I have. It's not the Ready Shreddy from Stampin' Up! That's much prettier, but it will work so that you can kind of at least get an eye view of what it's going to look like. And I'm just going to come in here with my scissors, and any wild and crazy pieces, I'm just going to snip those off. So here are both of the bags. Now this is the one with the larger rosette. This is the one with the smaller one. The difference between the two is I cut this strip of paper 1.5 inches wide. I cut this strip of paper 2 inches wide. So you can kind of decide. Now for the PDF that I'm going to be having for you, I'm going to have the directions for this piece, but just keep in mind, if you like the looks of this one better, just make sure you cut this strip 1.5 inches rather than 2. If you like this project and would like to order the supplies that I've used, there will be a link to my online store in the description box that's below the video, as well as links to all of these products. Now keep in mind, they're not available until January 3rd. But if you'd like to put a wish list together and email it to me, I will keep it on hand. And then whenever the catalog goes live, I can send you a message and let you know that it's time to place your order. I would love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you're not going to miss any of my future paper crafting tutorials. And with all of the Occasions catalog projects that I'm going to be sharing with you, you may not want to miss any of those. Also, when you're over on my blog getting your instruction sheet for this project, then make sure that you sign up for my newsletter, because I do send out exclusive tutorials throughout the month. So thank you so much for spending time with me today as I shared this project with you from the Occasions catalog. And I just have to say, I am in love with every product in that catalog, as well as all the freebies that I get from the Sale-a-bration brochure. So I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.